and welcome to the 41st episode of the Lovebird Lane. I nearly said my muddlings, my goodness. It hasn't been my muddlings for a very, very long time. But it's the Lovebird Lane podcast. My name is Julianne, and I'd like to thank you all for joining me today. Today is going to be a little bit different. It's probably not going to be very long again because my knitting mojo has kind of left me. I've been very, very busy every day. I'm been exhausted by the time I get any free time, and yeah, I just haven't really been into the knitting. Marion is wanting to be heard. So have been doing a little bit of knitting, but it's not a lot. It's only some shawls. I haven't done any garment knitting for at least a week. So I thought for a little bit of a different episode, just to have something to talk about, I thought I would talk about some things that I am enjoying at the moment, and you know, you might be interested in trying some of them. So that is what I'm going to try today. I can probably get on with what I have been working. Obviously there's no FOs because things aren't just not working that way. But I do have a couple of works in progress. They are two shawls, one of which you did see last week if you were open to being spoiled. And another one that I cast on because I so enjoyed knitting that shawl that I couldn't wait for the next clue. So I cast on another one. But I will get on to the first one now. And today I also brought my other balls of yarn with me so I can show you all of the colours in the balls as well. So this is the first one I'm going to talk about. It is not the one that needs the spoiler, so don't worry. And this is the Half Moon Oracle Shawl by Vine, so by Kristen Larare. And I'm losing all the balls of yarn. So I did actually knit the original, because originally this was a full pie shawl. So this is a half pie shawl, and initially Kristen released this as a full pie, so a big circle, and I did knit that at the time out of some hand-dyed yarn. I did that out of Knit Picks Preciosa Fingering, I think, that I dyed myself. And this time I am knitting it from my own singles base. It is obviously, like I said, a fingering weight shawl. It is a half pie, so it is semicircular, and it has lace and brioche, and I am using 3 colorways that I have created fairly recently. So we have Mildly Mauve here, which is like a sort of tonally pink with some red and black speckles on that one. I'm using Pearl, which is like a beigey silver grey, but I added some speckles, very subtle speckles to this one, just for a little bit of interest. And then I am using another new colourway called Old Planks. So it's kind of like this really rich browny black. I don't know if that's focusing, there we go. And I also put a few little very subtle speckles on that as well. So I really do like this colourway. I've got a lot of this in this week's shop update. I looked at, sorry, my nose is running today. It's very, very cold. It's been raining all morning. But I looked at other shawls that were on the project page on Ravelry. I saw some in very similar colours to these, and I followed the colour order because I was like, oh, that looks cool, because the iCore bind off was in the dark colour, so it would be in Old Planks, and I really liked that pop of dark on the bottom of the shawl, not realising that it's exactly the same, because I used very similar colours for my original Oracle shawl. I had a black, I had like a pinky purple, and I had it was kind of like a speckly black with some pops of green. It was actually the same. So essentially I used the black where the Old Planks are, I used the purple where Mildly Mauve is, and I used the speckly black and green one where Pearl is being used. So I'm going to have 2 shawls. Not that I wear my Oracle shawl a lot. I do really like the shawl, but it is very big and a little bit hard to wear. It probably would be easier to wear if I could block it really aggressively, but I don't have blocking mats or anything like that. I possibly could use, I have blocking wires and pins now. I could possibly use those on my bed and pull it really large, like make it really big, because yeah, I do have trouble wearing that one. I'm not quite sure how to wear it. If you have any tips, please do let me know in the comments. But yeah, it's the same color progression as the one that I already have. So I sort of thought, okay, the pattern is supposed to use about 50 grams of yarn, so half a skein. So I thought maybe I would reknit this in another color progression that I also saw on the project page on Ravelry. Yeah, so I may have another one of these cast on right at the end of this one being knit, but this is where I'm at. I am not too far off the end. There is another section each of brioche and lace, and then an I-cord bind off. So it's getting very bunched up on this needle because it's only a short needle. I did put an order in this morning for some higher tips and cables so that I can finish knitting this and the spoiler shawl on some longer 4mm needles, and it will add to my higher sharp set that I have. So this is my Half Moon Oracle, and I've really been enjoying it. I actually, at the end of my second lot of brioche, because it's 2-color brioche, if I ever get my tutorial out, you'll see that it's usually involves 2 passes. So you go across with one color, and then you go across with the second color, and then, you know, the same on the way back. But I thought to myself the other day, I know that there is a possible way to do 1 pass brioche, so you work both colors at the same time as you go across. And I watched a video. She was showing me how to do it, and I couldn't quite, like, the lady who did the tutorial, it was clear, but she was using this very strange kind of, it was a crepe yarn, like a crepe twist yarn, but it was very kind of fluffy as well. So it was really hard to see the stitches on her needles, because she did use 2 colors obviously, but because the yarn was so thick, it kind of got in the way and you couldn't really see the stitches. I couldn't tell whether she ended up doing it the same way I've done it, but I've created a way, I don't know if it's the same because it was really hard to see on her tutorial, but I have created a way to do 1 pass brioche that worked for me. So I might end up completely redoing my brioche tutorial to include that. Yeah, it definitely made it easier. I don't know whether it was quicker than doing 2 passes. I can imagine it probably would be on very long rows, but it worked for me. That's about all I can say. It worked. I'd say it would have been quicker, but it does take a little bit more, especially because I was just kind of feeling it out and creating it and trying to see if something would work. It did obviously take longer because, you know, I'm trying to be more careful, making sure I've got all my yarn overs in there so that I create the actual brioche stitch. So it was very slow because I was trying to learn and see if it was working. I think because I think I only had maybe 4 to 6 rows left of that section, I didn't have a whole lot of opportunity. That's the word. I didn't have very much of an opportunity to practice because obviously I only had those 6 rows left. But I did get quicker towards the end. And the way that I held my yarns too was like I do 2-color continental knitting. So I had 1 strand in each hand. I found that it didn't really affect my tension a whole lot. But I guess on the next brioche section, I will give it another go and I will see how much of a difference it makes. But it was working. So in future, if I'm doing 2-color brioche, I could potentially just head through and do 1 pass instead of 2. So I guess that will mean that brioche projects are a lot quicker for me. But that is for another time. That is my half moon oracle. I'll get on to the other shawl that I have been working on. All right, so as before, like last week, I will put a timestamp on the screen here so that you know if you don't want to see this, you can hop out and come back. But this is the Stillness MKAL, which is a knit along being held by Curious Handmade, who is Helen Stewart, and it is her Stillness shawl. So last chance, this is your final warning. I'm about to show it on the screen. Head back to that timestamp that I had on the screen if you don't want to see. But you've been warned. And we're going to talk about it now. So last night, or yesterday afternoon, the second clue came out. So I have started knitting the second clue. I didn't get really far, but I do have my yarns with me today to show you. So the second clue starts with some lace and your A colour. So I'm back to Fireheart, and as you can see, I'm getting very bunched up on these needles as well, which is why I put in an order for some new tips and cables. But I will show you close up. So you can see there, it's kind of like a pointy kind of lace, creating kind of like a chevron, I suppose. This repeat, I've just done one repeat. It needs to be repeated 3 times, so it will be obviously a lot higher, and it'll be creating more of that chevron triangle kind of shape. But yeah, that's about as far as I've gotten. I did that last night. I had to tink back an entire lace row because I got to the end and realized I didn't have enough stitches left, and then I looked at the instructions, and then I counted my stitches. I'm like, no, I did my increases right, so I've got the right number of stitches, but I hadn't noticed that there were 2 increases on the wrong side. So if you are knitting this, just be very aware. It's like the second row of the clue. There are wrong side increases, so I missed those. So I had to tink back that lace row, and then I realized that there were some yarn overs on the previous row, so I just lifted them up on the right side, and it might be a little bit tighter in those sections, but whatever. I was not going to tink back a whole purl row just to add a yarn over. But then when I had my yarn overs included, I was all good. And yeah, that's kind of where I am at. I did that last night. So as I said, I'm getting lint everywhere. This sweater is so full of pills. So this is Fireheart. Here is a nice rich red with some sort of brown and some speckles and stuff in there. So that's Fireheart. And then I showed you Penny last week. So Penny was this sort of pinky brown, that one. And then I am using Flushed, which is this one here. So you can see there it's like a pinky orange. So that's what I was saying last week, is this was creating quite a bit of orange in, like it gave a cast of orange to my shawl in the viewfinder that I can see. I'm very happy with it. I am going to be working on this later when I get a chance to sit and have the afternoon off, hopefully. Usually on podcast day I just do the podcast and then have the afternoon off after I've edited, because I have been very organised. I dye on Wednesdays, I photograph and list on Thursdays, ready for Saturday. I write my newsletter on Thursday, so if you are interested in the newsletter, there is, for my shop, there is a link to sign up down in the description. I send one out once a week or whenever I'm doing an update. Yeah, so I'm actually selling shawl kits this week of both of these sets of colorways, because obviously I dye in 2s and I've only used 1 of each. So both of these will be available as shawl kits in the shop 5 PM on the 4th of July. I wanted to also let you know that I am taking next week off. Simon has taken the week off with annual leave, so I am going to relax for the week with him. Like I said earlier, I've been really exhausted. I've been working really, really hard trying to build Lovebird Lane right up, and I'm trying to really make that you know, a living essentially. So I've been having lots of really good feedback, lots of orders coming through, which I'm really appreciative of. If you are one of the people who placed an order, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And yeah, I'm feeling really positive about it. I was feeling very down. I was almost going to close a little while back because I just was feeling really demotivated, really uninspired. But I've turned everything around and now I'm feeling really inspired and I'm very excited about the future. So I'm taking next week off just to relax a little bit, spend some time with my husband, see if we can do some outings or something, do some fun stuff together, which we don't often get the chance to do. And that's going to be good. So for people who are customers of my shop, there will be no shop update next week. And I will not be recording a podcast. So yeah, I'm taking a week off. And I said I was going to talk about some things that I have been enjoying lately to see whether you would be interested in them too. So I'll probably start with a couple of podcasts that I've really been enjoying. And one of them is Phoebe Reads a Mystery, which is a podcast where Phoebe Judge, who is the host of the podcast Criminal, if you've ever heard that, she's got a very calming, very soothing voice. And she has been reading she's done 2 Agatha Christie's. She's done a Conan Doyle, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. She's done Hound of the Baskervilles, which was really fun. 2 Agatha Christie stories, and she did one. I didn't listen to it because I found it was a little bit racist, so I was not interested in listening to that. But she's now doing another murder mystery, I believe, and I haven't had the chance to really get into that one yet. But the Agatha Christie ones were a lot of fun. Hound of the Baskervilles obviously was very good. I have seen the Sherlock version of the Hound of the Baskervilles, but I had never seen any or read the original story, so that was good to hear. So yeah, Phoebe Reads a Mystery is quite good. I've also been listening to one that's a little bit more serious. It's serious subject matter, but they do handle it really, really entertainingly, and that is it's a podcast that's usually called Behind the Bastards, and they are doing a special, I think it's only going to be 6 parts, but a special series called Behind the Police. So it talks about how, it's specifically talks about America because they are American. It is an American podcast, but it is talking about how the police came about, that they basically were spawned from people who were hunting for escaped slaves, and the the corruption and the bigotry and the brutality really that they have exhibited for hundreds of years, like since they were basically created in the US, and or at least 100 and whatever years, probably not hundreds and hundreds of years, although America is pretty old. But yeah, talking about different stories of things that have happened. They recently spoke about the race riots that were basically white people rioting against the people of color, the black communities in I think it was Tulsa in Oklahoma. But yeah, it is really, really interesting, and I've found myself like talking along and responding to the people on the podcast, and just being absolutely dismayed by the origins of where the current police service has come from. And it's pretty awful, but it's very informative. So if you are interested in something about that, if you're interested in the police brutality and the movements that they're currently undergoing to defund police and things like that, then definitely give that a listen. It's very, very informative. It's very enlightening as well, especially as somebody who doesn't live in America. And I mean, I don't even know a lot about Australia's police service, so a podcast like that about Australia's police would probably be good too. I'm sure we'll find lots of skeletons in the closet there as well. But that's another podcast I've really been enjoying. I started one yesterday, which was called, I think it's called Guru, and it's basically about a guy who was actually in what was his name? James Arthur Ray, I think is his name, and they only had 2 episodes available, so I've listened to both of those. But he was in The Secret. I've watched The Secret quite a few times, and I did recognise his face when I had a quick Google to see who he was. But yeah, people passed away at one of his retreats because he basically cooked them in what was it called? I can't remember what they called it, but it was basically like a very hot type of sauna environment. They were in a tent, and he had hot rocks and they were pouring water on it and stuff like that. And basically a couple of people died in this steam tent thing. So it's all about his kind of cult leader kind of like personality and things like that. So they're 3 that I have really been enjoying lately. Plus there's lots that I listen to all the time. I love creepy podcasts. So if you like creepy podcasts, I am a season pass holder of the No Sleep podcast, so I listen to that every week. I get a couple of hours of the No Sleep podcast. Although I have to say this current season has not been as good, I don't think, as it has been in the past. I've kind of often finished the podcast and kind of went like meh. But yeah, I do enjoy creepy stories, so I listen to that. I listen to Creepy podcast, which are, they're basically all creepypastas, No Sleep and creepier, sort of creepypasta type stories. I like listening to Let's Not Meet stories, so I listen to Let's Read. He has very long podcasts. He's also on Spotify. I'm actually binging old ones on Spotify at the moment. I listen to Let's Not Meet, which is the name of a podcast. So yeah, I love true creepy stories. I like creepypasta stories. So if you have any that you can suggest, please do let me know down in the comments. I'm always on the lookout for more scary story type podcasts and things like that. So please do let me know down below. So that's podcasts. What about TV? I'm not really much of a movie TV kind of person. Because I'm usually wanting to knit in the evenings, so I tend to listen to things more than I watch things. And so something that Simon and I have been watching is The Great, which is sort of loosely based on the story of Catherine the Great and her husband Peter. If you know anything about Catherine the Great, she, what's the word? Hosted a coup? I don't know. What is that? But basically there was a coup where she overthrew Peter. I don't know whether she killed him or not. I don't think she did, probably, or at least not by her own hand. But yeah, it is basically a sort of fictionalized story around Catherine the Great. And Elle Fanning is playing Catherine, and oh, what's his name? I know his name. It's just completely it's just completely left me. He's the guy that played what's the blue guy in X-Men. I'm gonna have to look it up now. Nicholas Hoult, of course, I know his name. Nicholas Hoult is Peter. He was also in Fury Road. He was the I can't remember what they call them, the guy that the chrome paint guy. They're the 2 main characters, and yeah, Elle Fanning is really good. So that's a lot of fun. It's very charming. Probably the only thing I would sort of complain about, I suppose, is the fact that the episodes are quite long. I think they're nearly an hour long, and I don't have a good attention span. I must say, I don't like long movies. If I watch a movie, I prefer it to be around 90 minutes. But if it's just something else that goes for like 3 hours, I just lose interest entirely. And yeah, and like I said, because I'm always knitting when I'm watching TV, because that's basically because of my anxiety, because I can't just sit and do nothing. Because I mean, I've spoken about this before. I have anxiety and depression. The depression doesn't come up so often for me anymore, and if it does, it's only a day or 2. But anxiety is something that I live with every day. And I was discussing this with my therapist actually last week, and we were saying that because she is also anxious, you know, even though she's a psychologist, she also suffers from anxiety. And as anxious people who have actual anxiety disorders, it's very hard for us just to be quiet and still, because our brain starts throwing up all these anxious thoughts that we then start buying into, which then increases our anxiety levels. So people who are anxious tend to be moving all the time. They tend to be always doing something. So that is very much me. Like, I have to be usually listening to something and knitting something or cleaning something, or that's why I think I'm becoming a bit of a workaholic, because it is something to keep me occupied and to do. And it also, you know, keeps the thoughts at bay, the anxious thoughts at bay. Also for depression, I feel like when I'm accomplishing things, that really helps with my depressive symptoms. So it's just all this like has created a bit of a workaholic out of me, and I have a hard time stopping. When I have to sit and do one thing for a very long time, my thoughts begin to kind of waver. My attention tends to just go off to these thoughts in my head. So I need things to keep clipping along. So possibly that's the only thing I could really, you know, criticize The Great for, is they are quite long episodes. But yeah, it's very good. It's a very good show. I don't really play video games that much. I don't really play other games, although Simon has been teaching me to play Mario Kart, which is quite fun. He's very good at it, or at least he's very good in comparison to me. I'm pretty well useless. And because we bought a Switch in November last year, and he's been loving it. He can take it to work. He's actually got it with him now. I can see the empty dock. Yeah, he takes it to work and he plays it on his lunch break. And if you're familiar with the Switch, it's got very small little controllers, and you can either hold it handheld, or if you're using it at home through the TV, you just have the little handles. You can get like another thing that you, like Simon tends to use, but I find that they really hurt my hands. And if you've been watching for any length of time, you know that I have a lot of RSI issues with my elbows and my hands. And I remember playing Mario Kart with them once before, and I was in so much pain in my hands. It was terrible. So Simon actually bought me for our anniversary, he bought me a Jigglypuff, which is a Pokemon character, controller, like a proper wired full controller. So I was able to use that, and apart from eventually getting a bit of pain in my thumb from holding down the accelerate button, it was a lot more comfortable. So hopefully next week we might be able to have another go at Mario Kart. He's been trying to teach me how to drift around corners to get more speed, and kind of, instead of like slowing right down and turning the corner, which you know, more often than not I'm just going straight off the road. But yeah, so Mario Kart's been fun. I have been listening to a book series, which I want to listen to it, but I know it's coming to an end because I'm on the last book, and that's making me not want to listen to it because I don't want it to come to an end, but I do want to listen to it. So I've been listening to the Throne of Glass series, and that is what Fireheart, the colour that I'm using on my Stillness shawl, is inspired by. So I have been listening to Throne of Glass. It is 7 books long plus a novella. I actually haven't listened or read the novella. I do have it. I bought a box set of the books. So I now have A Court of Thorns and Roses and Throne of Glass hardcover book sets, because they're both by Sarah J. Maas. Yeah, I've been listening to that. I've really, really enjoyed it. So basically I've been getting the Kindle book. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but Amazon you can get the Kindle book and then you can add the audible narration, and for Throne of Glass it's actually really cheap. For all of the books it was less than $10 for both the Kindle version and the audible narration. So yeah, I've been listening to it because, you know, if I can get an audible narration for like $3, like, I'm gonna get it. So yeah, I am listening to the last book, and even though I am craving so much to listen to it, I don't want it to be over, so I'm not listening to it. It's kind of this weird but yeah, Throne of Glass is really good. A Court of Thorns and Roses is very, very good. That's my favourite out of the two, but Throne of Glass is very, very involved. It's a very, very large story. But yeah, Sarah J Maas. If you haven't read either of those series, you might enjoy them. I've really been enjoying Sarah J Maas's books. I know that she's just started a new series, the Crescent City series. I have not read that yet. Kristen from Vine is actually the one that got me onto A Court of Thorns and Roses, which then led on to Throne of Glass. And she has read the first Crescent City book, and I don't think she was that into it. So I'm a little bit like, do I want to try getting into another series? I don't know, but possible, because I do enjoy both those other series by Sarah J Maas. But yeah, that's the book that I've been reading. Music is something that I used to listen to a lot, but I don't really listen to much these days, although I have been getting back into some of the older music. So I've been listening to a bit of Air Supply lately, which is an Australian band from like the 70s or something, the 80s. So I've been listening to a little bit of Air Supply, I've been listening to a bit of Chicago. I'm very much an old school music kind of person. I don't listen to any new music at all, unless it's by an artist that I have a previous kind of relationship's the wrong word, but if I've previously listened to some of their music before, I will try out their new albums. But other than, I don't listen to the radio. If I do listen to the radio, I listen to the oldies station. So yeah, I'm more of a classic music kind of, classic hits kind of person. So that is what I've been enjoying lately. But I think I might leave it there, get this editing done, get this, you know, starting to export and get it uploaded, and get back to knitting my Stillness shawl. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, everybody. I hope this wasn't too boring. I don't have a lot of crafting content, but yeah, I hope this was okay. If you enjoyed the episode, please do give it a thumbs up. Let me know any of your favourites that you think I might be interested in down below. I'm always looking for new things to keep me entertained and keep those anxious thoughts at bay. So please do let me know down in the comments. But yeah, I would like to wish you all happy knitting, happy crafting. Please do take care of yourselves. Love to you all, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.